Hello everyone. It's Audra Starkey here, and I'd like to welcome you to today's Facebook Live. So thank you so very much for joining me. For those of you who are here at the moment, I might just give it a couple more minutes to let a few more people come on board. I know it's not always appropriate or doable to actually get on at the same time that we're doing these lives. The good thing is though, just so you know, that this will be here permanently, it will be recorded and people can be able to access it at a later date, but it's always good to catch these things on the live, so you get the chance to actually ask me questions. So first and foremost, welcome to all of the new people that have just joined, probably just in the last few hours in particular, that have expressed your interest in this live. For those of you who are very new to this group, just a 30-second background on me. My name's Audra Starkey. I am a clinical nutritionist, shift work veteran and accredited trainer, but I help shift workers improve their health and well-being through better sleep and workplace wellness programs here in Australia. So welcome. Now for those of you, I'm going to be looking at my notes, guys, just so you know, and I'm going to be trying to keep an eye on comments or anything that come through. I don't always see comments as they come through live, so I'm apologise in advance if I don't get to your question or comment, but I will, even if I get to it later on. I just am going to be looking at my notes because I want to make sure that I cover all of the content that I want to share with you all today, because this is just really important stuff. So if you're catching me on the live, please type in 1 below in the comments, or if you're catching me on the replay, type in number 2. Just gives me a bit of an idea of who's coming in when, so that I can reach out and say hello to you all. All right, first up, the $1 million question, which is all why you're here, obviously, is there a perfect shift work diet, or what is the perfect shift work diet? So my answer to that question is that we really need to first up take a step backwards and look at some of the chronic health conditions that shift workers are renowned for. Now, I've been studying shift work health and well-being for close to 10 years now. Academically, I was at university for 6, with a very much laser focus on shift work nutrition and shift work sleep specifically. Hey Rachel, how you going? So over that time frame, I did so much research, and I'm always continually researching, reading books, reading research articles, published research, clinical trials to find out what's going on with shift workers. Now, unfortunately, when you read the research, it is all very much a bit of doom and gloom. Shift workers are renowned for a lot of chronic health conditions. I hate to say it, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It kind of is what it is. But that's why I'm actually doing this group, and I want to do these Facebook Lives. I'm all about education, because I think most shift workers are not getting the necessary education and support and help and guidance that they desperately need and really should be entitled to, I feel, when we work in these kind of crazy occupation. But a lot of chronic health conditions that keep coming up in the research is that shift workers are prone to things like cardiovascular disease, obesity, insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, certain hormonal cancers, a lot of gastrointestinal complaints. Like, it's not very rosy, to be quite honest, not very rosy at all. But then as I'm reading this research, in the back of my mind, I'm wondering, I bet that every single person that they put through all of these clinical trials never had any help, support, guidance, education on how the heck to stay healthy, which is whilst working 24/7. We just embark on this industry or career and do the best that we can, right? Like, we start off and we might get trained on how to become a nurse, or how to become, spent years doing that sort of stuff to become a nurse or in police or whatever field, transport, aviation, manufacturing, whatever it is for you. You get taught how to work in your industry, but you don't get taught how to work around your disrupted lifestyle, basically. Now, so that's what it comes down to. So the research is not great. As I said, there's a lot of chronic health conditions that shift workers are prone to. But it all really does stem back to two things. Number one, it is sleep deprivation, which I think you can all kind of relate to. And number two, it is sleep disruption, or what we call is circadian disruption or circadian desynchronization, meaning that unfortunately, we don't get to sleep, at the ideal time when the sun goes down and Sorry, hi Costas, you've just popped in there. Hi, greetings from Greece. Good to see you, Costas. We don't always get the opportunity to be sleeping during the night with normal regular hours, and sometimes we've got to be sleeping during the day. Now, when our sleep is disrupted, it affects our nutritional choices and decisions amongst a myriad of other things. Now, it's why I do a lot of sleep focus in my talks, is because everything comes back to sleep. There is not one aspect of your life that is not affected by lack of sleep. Stress, relationships, our immune system, everything does get affected by it. So I just wanted to bring that up, is that it comes obviously back down to what is driving these chronic health conditions. Number one, it's usually lack of education. And number two, obviously the sleep itself. Now, secondly, a part of this Facebook Live that I want to bring about, and again, it's coming back to, is there a perfect shift work diet? I'm just trying to put things into context to help to answer that question the best way that I can. So secondly, there is an absolute minefield out there when it comes to dietary and nutrition advice. I think we can all relate to it, yeah? I think pretty much the end of a news segment, there's always some other new diet that's available. We are just swamped and drowning with so much information. We are starving. We're drowning in information, but we are really starving for real practical wisdom, which is what this aim of this Facebook Live is for us today. Now, and I wanted to kind of, share again, it's to kind of help you to think outside the box a little, okay? To perhaps take in a bit of a different take on what we're hearing mostly out there. It's all kind of about various different diets. Speaking of, okay, there are so many diets out there. What have we got? The paleo, the sugar-free, the gut health, high carb, low carb, dairy-free, gluten-free, keto, intermittent fasting, detoxes, cleansers, blood type diet. It is just insane. Okay, we've got so many different diets out there. Now, I'm not here to discount or discredit any of those types of diets, because some of them have a really good lot of science base backing up behind them, and I know plenty of people that are getting really good results from it. But one thing that I do kind of want to mention is that a lot of it comes back down to that you've got great coaches working with you as well, because I know plenty of my colleagues that are working maybe in different areas of that, and they're fantastic coaches, and I think for most of us, whenever we're trying to reach any particular goal, we usually need a mentor or a coach to get us there, don't we? I mean, we're hopeless at doing things ourselves. Like, we lack the motivation. We just need somebody to kind of boot us up behind us. So I think, a lot of those results obviously are helped by, finding a really good mentor and coach to help you to get there, to get the results that you're looking for. So now I wanted to just, for those of you who are new or didn't get to see it, but I did post a couple of pictures up here just before we went live. Now, I wanted you to sort of sit there and assess these pictures to have a look at why or what's interesting about those particular photos. Did anybody get a chance to see those photos, or if you want to make a comment about, oh, hi Ruth, how you going? Hi, thanks for joining me. I don't know if anybody saw those pictures Did you want to make any particular comment about those pictures that I shared? Feel free to do so. If not, what I wanted to raise in that particular, by putting those pictures there, is that those photos were taken at the launch of the Apollo 11 spacecraft, or whatever it was. So that was back in 1969, 50 years ago. And what was really fascinating by those photos, is if you look closely, and you might choose to look at them after we've gone Facebook Live, is that hardly anybody in that photo is overweight. Hardly anyone. Now, shift work was around 50 years ago. Shift work has been with us since the turn of the century. Since industrialisation, people have been working these crazy and irregular hours. Yeah, if we go back 50 years ago, and to be honest, I think even if we just go back 20 years ago, that that sort of overweight or obesity kind of epidemic that we're really living in at the moment is just was non-existent. So that's the purpose of that picture, just to kind of make you think that, all right, 50 years ago, people sort of seem to be in a little bit better shape, as in around the waistline, I suppose. The thing is, if we were to go back in time now, imagine we've zoomed back and we're going to be standing where those people are watching that Apollo 11 take off. If you were to come up to them and say the words paleo, gut health, intermittent fasting, keto, whatever else you might think, they would probably look at you as if you have three eyes or two heads, or whatever the right thing is. They wouldn't have heard of all these diets that we're being exposed to today. Yet those people were not overweight. Yet fast forward to 50 years now, we are in a very chronic unhealthy state. As I said before, obesity, type 2 diabetes, sleep epidemic, and all of these are very real chronic health conditions faced by so many shift workers. So my point for that is that picture really is your biggest clue, and what I just mentioned before, that if you were to go up and speak to these people and mention these words of these diets that are out there, they would really look as if, like, what are you talking about? Like, you're obviously speaking to me in a different language. I have no idea what you're talking about. What is paleo? What is intermittent fasting, keto? And again, I'm not here to discount any of those types of eating at all, because I know people that are on them, that are doing them, they're doing really well, and that's great. And if you are, fantastic. I put my hand on my heart here. If you're getting results from doing that program, brilliant, because that's all. My ultimate aim is to help you to improve your health and well-being. But I want just to put things in context, because we are living in a society that is so fixated on diets and exercise, kind of, which is great, diets and exercise. But we're sick and we're overweight and we're sleep deprived as well. So, all right, number 3, where am I going with this? So in answer to that $1 million question, is there a perfect shift work diet? What is the perfect shift work diet? If you're kind of hanging with me here going, please Audrey, just tell me that there is a shift work diet out there and I'm going to sign up straight away. Well, I hate to tell you it, but there is no perfect shift work diet. I want to break you down gently there. And this is my opinion. This is just based on my 10 years of doing research, working shift work for myself for 20 years, working with clients, having a good understanding of what's going on, is that there is no such thing as the perfect shift work diet. Again, you're probably disappointed. You want to throw things at me. Thankfully, you can't, because it's a Facebook Live. You can't do that. You just have to sit there and watch me. But if you are looking for something that is just this quick fix solution, if this is a shift work diet, it's going to get me there, there is no such thing. But there is a way of eating that is extremely beneficial for shift workers. And I'm going to say that again. So there's no perfect shift work diet out there, but there is a way of eating that is extremely beneficial for shift workers. So what do I mean by that? Well, it comes down to eating in accordance with our circadian rhythms, or as close to our natural sleep-wake cycle. Not an easy thing to do when you work shift work, particularly those of you who are working rotating shifts. You're working night shifts all the time. I'm not saying that this is easy, but this is critically important that you understand this, because my aim is to help to mitigate some of these chronic health conditions, metabolic conditions that shift workers are renowned for. And when you understand this, eating more in accordance with our circadian rhythms, or food timing is another way, or the fancy term for it is chrononutrition. It's based on scientific literature of chronobiology, which really is just eating more in time with our circadian rhythms or our sleep-wake cycle. Now, why is this relevant, or why is this really important? And I think that it's really easy for us, though, to, when we start a shift working job, we don't really eat like that. It's really, we eat when we get our breaks. Yes, definitely that's a part that is kind of defined as when, but sometimes when we actually start to, particularly night shifters, they will sometimes just flick their meals the other way and think, okay, well, I'll have dinner's going to be my breakfast and midnight's going to be my lunch, and then breakfast will be my dinner, and they're kind of doing it that way. Again, we do it because we've had no educational understanding around this, which is what I'm trying to kind of do. So again, why do we really need to be having more of a focus around this circadian or eating more in accordance with our circadian rhythms? Many reasons, but the one that I want to focus on with this live is that it comes back down to our digestive system, and that our digestive system is basically slows down at night, and it cannot and has not evolved as a human being to function and digest and process food in the same way during daylight hours as it does during the night time. So, oh hi Yort, how you going? Yep, no worries, just catch you on the replay. Thanks for joining me. So what happens at night is that our gut motility slows down, intestinal blood flow slows down, kidney and liver function slows down, and most notably the pancreas secretes less insulin. And this is probably to me, this was like a light bulb moment when I was doing more research and understanding what's happening here. Why are shift workers getting this, always developing these chronic health conditions, besides the shift work itself. I wanted to kind of know more. There's got to be a way to help you to not develop one of these chronic health conditions. So knowing that your digestive system is not able to process food in the same way that it does during the daylight is crucial. Because at the end of the day, we can do this amazing thing by working shift work and, getting up at stupid o'clock at 2 o'clock in the morning, or working through the night. We know our bodies let us do that. The alarm clock goes off, up we drag our bodies in half asleep. We know we can do it. But the thing is, we haven't evolved this way as human beings. We are diurnal, not nocturnal creatures, meaning we're meant to be asleep during the night and awake during the daytime. We're not designed to evolve to be nocturnal, and we probably never will, definitely not in my lifetime. And at the end of the day, we cannot beat our biology. We cannot beat the biochemistry, all of the functions that are happening that have made us evolve as human beings, these certain things to happen at certain times. We can't beat it. We have these constant circadian rhythms going where certain hormones get released at certain times, certain neurotransmitters get released at certain times, certain enzymes get released at certain times, because we are walking clocks. We have all of these clock genes going around us. We've got one in our brain called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and then we've got all of these tiny little clock genes throughout every tissue cell in our body, designed for things to happen at certain times of the day or night. And when we go against that by disrupting it more with our eating, now we disrupt it with our sleep, and we know one of the things that disrupts it is that getting exposed to light at the wrong time and getting exposed to dark at the wrong time. But also meal timing, meal and nutrient timing are also one of the things that can disrupt our circadian rhythms. So we need to be getting into the mindset as shift workers to be protecting and preserving our sleep like our life depends on it, because honestly it does, because it's that sleep deprivation disruption. It is the foundation where everything starts to kind of get out of control for us, so we need to be, where possible, and again, it's doing what you physically can when you can. There's going to be moments where the day is just going to be a bit of a write-off. That's fine, it is what it is. So focus on the things that you can change, not on what you can't. We can't change our rosters, unfortunately. If I had a magic wand and I could wave your rosters to make them much more user-friendly, believe you me, I would. But we can't, or some of you might be able to. So you've got to do what you can do. And one of these things comes back to you making better choices and decisions around your food timing when you actually can. So recommendations that I want to just give you, some just tips to kind of take away from this Facebook Live is to, as I said, really focus on protecting and preserving your sleep where humanly possible, because that's going to be having that flow-on effect to every choice, decision and action that you make moving forward. We know when we haven't had enough sleep, we're not the friendliest people to be around. We say and do things that we wouldn't ordinarily say. So we need to be, doing our best, our darndest to protect it as much as we can. And usually that means working on the quality of your sleep as opposed to, when you're not going to get that quantity. And the second part of this is to think into resetting your circadian clocks. So whenever you're just done a string of night shifts, it's about doing what you can to help reset it, getting it back into normal mode. And one of the ways to do this, besides getting its early morning light exposure and so forth, which I've spoken about before, but is to eat more in accordance with our circadian rhythms, because meal and nutrient timing is one of those ways to help with that. A better way to help explain that is that, we know that when we get exposed to light at the odd hours, it's like during the night, it's really sending a signal to your brain to say that it's daylight when we should be sleeping. The same applies if you were to eat a pizza at 3 o'clock in the morning. You are sending a signal to your digestive system that it is time to be wide awake. And you're just firing up your whole digestive system there to do things that it has not evolved to do as human beings. Now again, I know that there's not going to be that perfect time. There's going to be, depending on your roster, when you're going to get a meal break and things like that, but just knowing that your gastrointestinal tract is not functioning at its optimum during the night, which is then going to have this massive flow-on effect to your ability to be able to sleep or not sleep later on as well. And again, remember, everything comes back to sleep to begin with. When it comes to shift work, everything starts and finishes when it comes to sleep. So my tips to kind of give you, leaving with this Facebook Live, for everyone watching right now, is to give yourself, number one, give yourself an honest critique of your food timing behaviors. Again, I know that there's, depending on your shift, it depends when your meal break is and so forth, but are you doing things there that are making it potentially worse? So if you're somebody that's on night shift, please look at always having, again, I know night shifts, you're all going to have different times with your night shift. So let me just use an example of, an 8 p.m. till an 8 a.m. Always have your main meal before your shift, or whether it's just at the start of that shift that evening. Have that main meal before going to bed, and try and make sure that it is just a really filling meal. Something that, again, please don't overcomplicate things with different diets. I can't have this on my plate and I can't have that. We need to keep things simple here, keep it to basics. So something that's got a bit of protein on your plate, something that's got some really healthy complex carbohydrates, so some vegetables, and maybe some, healthy fats there as well. So make sure whether it's butter and eggs or oil or avocados, whatever it is, just so that you're getting, because it's a protein and the healthy fats that's going to keep boost your satiety or your feelings of fullness, to help you to power through your shift and be less likely to fall under the magnetic spell of that vending machine in the corridor at 2 a.m. that's screaming at you going, eat me, eat me, eat me. But if you've had a decent meal before going into night shift, it is just going to reduce those cravings for you. If you're an early shift, somebody, let's say that you're starting at 4 o'clock in the morning. So instead of getting up and having something to eat straight away, again, remember, your body's still half asleep, your gut is still desperately trying to sleep, as would you. But if you're just giving it food straight away during that night when it's not expecting it, it's potentially going to have not great effect. And actually, that's another thing that I didn't mention earlier, is that shift workers just are so prone to experiencing different types of gastrointestinal complaints, over the long term, they can end up being quite chronic. So instead of being obsessed with the food, the actual food, looking back to that timing of when I'm actually eating, because that's potentially contributing to all this digestive discomfort that you are experiencing. So if you are on it early, wait for your body to kind of wake up for a bit. Just have whether it's a cup of tea, some hot water that you can have first. Maybe if you feel that you want something to kind of get you going, just like a really little small handful of nuts or something, just to give something in your tummy, but nothing too big. And then wait a bit for a few hours if you can to have your breakfast when the sun's hopefully coming up. And then, because again, that is how our body is meant to be eating. It's attuned to be eating when the daylight, the light actually, the sun comes up. We're meant to be getting up then, and then we're meant to be eating then. So Hi, thanks Costas, I'm glad that this is making sense. So that's if you're early shift. The other one was if you're on an afternoon shift. So ideally, if you're on an afternoon shift, I'm going to say something like midday to 8 p.m. Hopefully at some point in time you would have had an opportunity to maybe have something to eat around maybe 6 o'clock or something like that. But when you're getting home after that shift, try not to eat anything too heavy. And I suppose this is kind of worse, say for example, if you're finishing at 10 o'clock at night and then you want to come home and then you want to just open the fridge or pantry and just get stuck into that, and with the wine and the chips and all that kind of thing. Again, please just have this understanding of what's happening to my gut. It wants to sleep. It really, really wants to actually, it's desperately trying to sleep. But when you go home and I know we have some crappy shifts, we just want to kind of come home and slump on the couch and watch Netflix and just, munch through the not so healthy stuff. But just, again, try and think of your poor little digestive system and what's kind of going on. So instead of, having something like, too big and heavy, something small, again, like that cups of tea or something. And even if you're not lactose intolerant, maybe a bit of yogurt and some tart cherry juice kind of stirred through it. That's one of my husband's little favorites. Tart cherries are very high in melatonin, which is our sleep regulating hormone, that can help to sleep. So I think we have to really start getting much more savvy with our behavior around how we're eating. It's not all about what, it is very much about when. And in a society for shift workers, we're not kind of talking about it to begin with. And if you work 9 to 5, this stuff's not relevant, because they have the luxury of kind of getting up at the same time and going to bed at the same time, and so they generally eat at that regular time. But for shift workers, it's just not a reality, is it? It's just not a practical scenario. Brilliant advice. Oh, hi Carmel, thank you, that's great. I'm glad you're finding it helpful. So that's really what I wanted you to kind of take away. So after this video, I want you to just really start thinking differently about your timing of when you're kind of eating. And again, it's focusing what you can and what you actually can't, because there's going to be those moments where you're going to get a meal break at some random time, and what you've packed is probably not necessarily going to be ideal. Okay, so there's going to be moments like that. Just do the best that you can based on your occupation, based on your shift at the time, and then when you're not at work, obviously focusing on resetting those circadian rhythms and eating as close to that normal time as possible. Now, the other little takeaway that I want you to, I guess, take away from this is that shift workers, you know, we are, let's face it, we're notorious for not eating the healthiest of diets. I think they call it, you know, the SAD, standard American diet, or the standard Australian diet, or I like to refer to it as the SSD diet, the standard shift work diet, for usually, you know, a lot of highly processed, refined foods that are not necessarily going to be the healthiest for us, very low in fibre. Again, it's why a lot of us tend to have a lot of gastrointestinal complaints. If you have a very low fibre diet, then you are just setting yourself up for a few little gastrointestinal struggles later on. Not to mention, we need fibre to actually help us sleep. That's probably another separate Facebook post. It is actually, because I could probably talk about half an hour just for that one alone. But gut health is important when it comes to supporting it and being able to help with your sleep in that way. So my other little takeaway is just from today is to just start doing your assessment of your when, and then can I suggest that, because we're not eating enough fruits and vegetables, is in the next 24 hours, just again, I'm trying to keep things simple, is can you start to have one more extra serving of vegetables and maybe one more extra piece of fruit in the next 24 hours for me? And please don't get obsessed about I can't eat fruit and I can't eat fruit. And yes, this does apply to certain people that do need to keep their sugar intake low. But let's face it, guys, like, we've created this fear of fruit situation. But really, when it comes to fruit, is really important. It's for fibre. We need it. And if we're not eating a piece of fruit, a lot of us are replacing that piece of fruit with something processed anyway. So look at, you know, beginning to start the next 24 hours, just whack an extra piece of veggie on your plate, or make sure that you're having like that mandarin for morning tea instead of a Mars bar. It's about doing little steps, small steps at a time. Don't get overwhelmed by trying to do too many things and things that are not sustainable. You're just setting yourself up for failure. It's unfortunately why a lot of diets fail. It's too strict. It's too, we don't like to be not being able to have something. I have chocolate every day, every single day. I'm not going to never have chocolate a day. And I will even have occasional glass of wine or whatever, because I'm just big picture here. Stuff is to eat well most of the time, and please don't feel that you need to just never eat one of your favorite foods again. If that brings you joy and it doesn't cause you a gastrointestinal complaint, but if it makes you happy and you're able to enjoy it around family and friends, I think that to me is nutrition, a different type of health and well-being. So yeah, anyway, I'm not sure if people have questions for me. I've seen quite a few of you jump on and off. So I apologize if I don't see everything that is here. Yeah, lots of few comments in there, which is great. So thank you everyone for joining me. I do want to let you know though that, yes, thank you so much for when and quantity ever. Oh, sorry, Costas just got a question for me. When and quantity, ever since I reduced the size of my meals, my tummy is much better. Oh, right, yeah, that's not a question. Exactly. So Costas has said it comes back to the when, yes, and the quantity as well. Ever since I started to reduce the size of my meals, my tummy is much better. Absolutely. Our stomach is really, when we don't have any food in it, about the size of a fist. So if you're continually shoving food, it expands. And this is the human body is an amazing thing when you think about it. It really, you would think if it's only that size, it actually should stop, and the moment that you reach that point that it wouldn't physically let you keep eating, but it does. It just expands and expands, and if you do that for a very long time, we're just setting ourselves up for failure. So please don't don't think that you can sort of get away with or put your head in the sand and think that you can continue eating the way that you might be eating in that sort of way. This live is really more about the when as opposed to the what. But the what is, of course, is definitely very applicable with what we're actually eating, for sure. Definitely not, but again, I'm all about educating and talking about relevant stuff that can make a difference to start breaking this cycle of shift workers being unwell. And the when, the food timing, meal timing is definitely an instrumental a way of doing it. And yeah, Costas, I think it is great if you're having like that smaller meal. And again, I'm not saying to never eat during the night again. Again, you'd be throwing things at me. Thankfully you can't. It's not about that at all. It's just getting a bit more creative about the when and better choices of the type of food and also the size. Yeah, absolutely, the size of your meals is for sure, because we really are overeating. And you know, I hear a lot about people saying that, you know, I'm starving, I'm really, really hungry and all this kind of stuff. And the thing is, I think we've kind of forgotten that what hunger is like, or forgotten really what it's like to be hungry, because we're just kind of eating continually. But our body's not designed to be eating 24/7, even though we might work 24/7. It's not designed to kind of eat 24/7. So yeah, it's a big one. So yeah, but anyway, thank you so very much for joining me, everyone. I hope you find this valuable. Before I go, I do want to share an update with where I'm at the moment. I've been very low-key when it comes to working with people pretty much since January, primarily because I've been working on an extremely exciting project, which I can't wait to release and get it out to the world, but I can't really say any more at the moment because it's in progress of actually happening. But I made a decision to not take any more clients or anything basically since January, so that I could actually focus on this project. But I am just about to do a pre-launch of my Better Sleep Intensive program that is exclusively for shift workers, and I mean it is tailor-made exclusively for shift workers. And right now I am actually looking for 5 serious people, serious about wanting to improve their health, well-being and sleep. I am offering them, those 5 people, a 56% discount off my program. So if this sounds of interest and that you are kind of at that point where you really want to work on improving, obviously most notably your sleep, which is, as I keep saying, it's the foundation of everything, and it's going to have this flow-on effect to everything, with your dietary choices, with your energy, with your immune system, kind of everything. So if that sounds like it's something of interest, and again, if you're kind of serious that you're kind of at that point where please, Audra, help me, then I'd love to hear from you. Just leave me a little me comment below, and then I can get in touch. As I said, at this stage though, I'm just looking for 5 very serious people, very committed to wanting to start to get their health on track. And then so if you leave that comment, I'll reach out to you. We can have a quick chat, bit of a quick discussion, and see if we're a good fit and if you're a good fit for the program, you know, for both of us, and then we can sort of take it from there. So yeah, anyway, message from Dun. Wow, you actually get it. So refreshing to hear from someone who understands. Yeah, thanks, Dun. Look, you know, I was, you know, 20 years ago, I was kind of there. I was so frustrated and so sick of going to various different, you know, well-intending health practitioners, and just telling me to just either quit my job or just couldn't give me any good help and guidance to help me with working shift work. It really has set me on this path. I guess I've kind of become a bit of an accidental expert on it. Purely from the point of view that I'm very passionate about it, because I know what it's like, and I'm just seeing too many of my workmates get sick, and I'm probably going to start crying now, which is not what I want from this Facebook Live, but I just want you to let you know that I do have your back. This is very much a personal mission that I'm on, because I'm sick of hearing shift workers getting sick, and a lot of that comes back down to lack of education and not being told what's happening to my body when I work these irregular hours. No one is talking about that, and fortunately now I'm starting to get into more workplaces, which is great. I'm doing more workplace wellness workshops here in Australia, so my message is starting to get out there to the people that really need to hear it. And again, I guess, I suppose if you're in Australia and you would like me to come into your workplace as well and deliver a workshop, please also reach out, because that's something that I'm very much heavily investing in doing, because as much as I love kind of working on one-on-one, I'm trying to get this message out here to more and more people. I think in Australia there's close to 2 million people working shift workers. It's a lot of people. Globally, I think we're close to nearly 0.7 billion. That's a lot of people. I can't do this on my own. I'm just trying to create a bit of a ripple effect by getting into workplaces, doing my podcast. For those of you who don't know, I do run a podcast as well. And again, as I said, there's another project that is due out in 2019, which I'm really hoping that will be able to reach even more people wherever you are kind of in the world. So anyway, I will leave it at that. Hi Ken. Hi, how you going? Oh, can I do a bit of a shout out to you, Ken? Sorry, before I go. So Ken's just, I don't know if you've been there for long, but Ken Anderson is somebody that I have the utmost respect for. Ken was one of my trainers when I first started in the aviation industry back in the early 90s. Great. Oh, Ruth says great podcast. Oh, thanks, Ruth. I'm glad that you find them beneficial. I've been in this industry for a very, very, very long, very long time. And when I started working for Ansett, again, this is going to show my age. When I started at Ansett, I was fortunate enough to be trained by an amazing trainer, Ken Anderson and Judy Murray. When I was working with Ansett, and to this day, in my eyes, they are hands down the best trainers that I've ever had. They've taught me. I look back now and I just think that they really, they just had these amazing qualities about them, amazing ways to help people to learn from their trainings. It's all well and good to kind of sit there and just take it all in, but Ken, shout out to you. I just, love your work, and I know that I haven't seen you in a long time, and I know that we haven't connected in a very long time, but I just wanted to say that you've definitely been an instrumental player in kind of where and how I've kind of, and myself. I never thought I'd become a trainer myself, but I did end up becoming a trainer for obviously a different organisation, but I took a lot away from what you taught me, so thank you. Rachel, thank you, Audra. I would love to have you in Visit Geelong. Yeah, sure. Yep, I'm happy to kind of go anywhere. Definitely, if you're able to put me in touch with somebody in your workplace, feel free to send me another message here, and I'll see if we can make it happen. That's it. A lot of the work that I have got, to be honest, comes from people that have either been listening to my podcast or they've been following me for a long time, and they've just recommended me. If you get an online survey going, who would you like to see come in and speak in your workplace, then put my name down, just mention my name, and we'll see if we can get in touch with your HR department or your training and development department, whatever it is, and see how we can actually kind of make it happen. So anyway, I'm going to head off now. Thank you so very much for everyone that's joining me, whether you've been here on the live for me or whether you're going to come in second after this number 2. Please leave a comment below number 2 that you're going to catch me on the replay. I hope that you found this really valuable. As you can, again, I'm very passionate about this. I'm investing my heart and soul into do this, but it's all for you guys. Because I guess I'm frustrated a little bit that no one's helping shift workers, and I'm trying desperately to kind of spread that message out. So again, if those of you who are interested in being a part of the pre-launch of my Better Sleep Intensive program that I'm just starting again for 2019, 5 people only at the moment I'm looking for, happy to offer them at a 56% discount. off that price. It will go up over time, but at this point I'm happy to call it the end of financial year in May price. I don't know, end of financial year special in May, whatever it is. Yeah, but thank you again so much for joining me. I hope you found this really, really valuable, and yeah, and get to it. Look at the timing of your food is eating, and one veggie or one piece of fruit in the next 24 hours. All right. Mwah. Bye.